Here's what you missed in the last 17 hours. You had 20 videos worth catching up on, covering everything from massive GitHub star manipulation schemes to breakthrough AI capabilities and Tim Cook's Apple transition. Buckle up, this one's packed. Starting with what might be the biggest tech scandal of the year, Theo was absolutely livid about a massive investigation that revealed over 6 million fake GitHub stars being bought and sold like commodities. He was genuinely alarmed as he walked through the research from Carnegie Mellon, NC State, and Socket that analyzed 20 terabytes of GitHub data. The scale is staggering. By July 2024, over 16% of repos with 50-plus stars were involved in fake star campaigns, up from near zero before 2022. What really got Theo heated was discovering that VCs are explicitly using star counts to determine investments worth millions of dollars. For just $85 to $285, a startup can manufacture the median stars needed for seed funding. For $1,000 to $4,500, they can hit Series A range. With rounds raising $1.10 million, that's an ROI ranging from 3,500x to 117,000x. The fake star economy operates across multiple tiers. Disposable accounts cost 3.10 cents per star, while premium aged accounts with 5-year histories sell for $5,000 on Telegram. Theo showed clear fingerprints of manipulation. Organic projects like Flask have median account ages over 4,800 days, with only 1.3% ghost accounts, while manipulated blockchain projects show 51% of stargazers having 0 followers. The fork-to-star ratio is even more telling. Flask has 235 forks per 1,000 stars, while manipulated repos show only 17. GitHub's own actions validated 90% of the research when they deleted flagged repos. Theo was particularly frustrated about how this extends beyond GitHub to YouTube, where he's identified channels with obvious fake engagement, 600K views, but under 2,000 likes. He's threatening to publicly expose these creators and offered to serve as an expert witness for scammed brands. Speaking of threats to American tech dominance, Matthew Berman was genuinely concerned and urgent about Deepseek v4's implications. This isn't just another AI model release. China has achieved near state-of-the-art performance at a fraction of the cost using restricted hardware. V4 Pro has 1.6 trillion total parameters with 49 billion active, while Flash has 284 billion total with 13 billion active. Both feature million token context and were trained on 33 trillion tokens. In blind comparisons, V4 performs slightly behind but very close to Anthropic's Opus 4.7 and GPT 5.5 across benchmarks like MMLU Pro and GPQA Diamond. Berman's key insight is that being nearly as good is sufficient for most use cases while being dramatically cheaper. The economic argument is compelling. When GPT 5.5 costs $30 per million output tokens, DeepSeek's fraction of that cost plus open-source control creates obvious business advantages. Berman highlighted a crucial detail from DeepSeek's report. They're severely compute-constrained and charging higher prices than desired until launching 950 supernodes later this year. This ironically demonstrates both the effectiveness and limitations of export controls. But here's the strategic vulnerability. If U.S. companies build AI infrastructure on Chinese technology, architecture changes or access cuts could severely impact American businesses. More broadly, with trillions invested in U.S. AI infrastructure requiring returns, widespread adoption of cheaper Chinese alternatives could undermine the entire economic bet on American AI leadership. Moving to Apple news, Linus was genuinely appreciative and respectful when reflecting on Tim Cook's 15-year tenure, which is notable given his typically critical stance toward Apple. Cook is transitioning to executive chairman with John Turnus, the senior VP of hardware engineering who helped introduce the iPad, taking over as CEO. Linus argued that Cook's greatest achievement was stewarding Apple Silicon development, tracing this story from the A4 chip in iPhone 4 through the M-series transition. He noted how Intel completely ran out of gas after 2016, releasing new chips on old manufacturing processes with no performance gains, which coincided poorly with Johnny Ive's pursuit of thinner designs. The presenter praised Apple's M-series launch execution, particularly Rosetta 2's 5-year support window for Intel Macs. But what really excited Linus was the $599 MacBook Neo, calling the price as big a mic drop as when Sony went on stage and said $299. He sees this as Cook's most important move, potentially recapturing education markets that Apple abandoned by pricing out students entirely. The Neo's success nearly broke Apple's supply chain with month-long backorders reminiscent of old iPhone launches. Linus expressed excitement about hardware experts like Turnus and his replacement John Esrauji, who led A4 development, reaching top leadership positions. On a related note, the WAN show covered what Linus called Linux's biggest win yet. Over 50% of Framework 13 Pro sales are Ubuntu configurations, not Windows, a potential milestone for desktop Linux adoption. Linus was genuinely thrilled, calling it freaking exciting multiple times, though Luke provided important skepticism about whether people ordering Ubuntu would actually keep using Linux long-term. Both hosts showed frustration with Windows' increasingly intrusive behavior. Linus described returning to Windows as offensive and disrespectful, because the OS immediately pestered him about Edge, OneDrive, and Xbox services. They discussed their personal Linux experiences, with Luke daily driving Linux on Mint without ever needing command line, while Linus shared how Linux feels less intrusive and more productive. The show also covered Google partnering with Serascale for completely offline Gemini models via dedicated Dell appliances with 8 NVIDIA GPUs. Tesla's admission that Hardware 3 cars can never achieve full self-driving despite customers paying up to $15,000. An Xbox dropping Game Pass Ultimate pricing while removing day-one Call of Duty launches that were costing Microsoft over $300 million in lost sales. Switching to robotics breakthroughs, Dr. Carey Zalneifaher was genuinely amazed by NVIDIA's Sonic system that can control humanoid robots using just 42 million parameters, small enough to run on a phone. He was particularly excited about the multimodal capabilities, explaining how you can control robots through voice, text, video, or even music inputs. The system learned from 100 million frames of human motion without requiring human-made action labels, figuring out transitions between tasks naturally. The technical pipeline flows from multimodal input to motion generator, human encoder, quantizer, and finally decoder for motor commands. A key innovation is the root trajectory spring model that prevents robots from falling or damaging themselves by dampening sudden commands with an exponential decay term. Training required 128 GPUs for 3 days, expensive up front, but resulting in a lightweight model that runs easily on phones. The presenter highlighted that all models will be released as free, open-source software, led by Professor Zhu and Jim Fan, who started NVIDIA's Humanoid Robots Lab just 2 years ago and has been producing breakthrough research consistently. He emphasized this represents just the beginning of domestic robot capabilities for tasks like laundry and cooking. The AI image generation space just got completely disrupted according to Nate from AI News and Strategy Daily. OpenAI's GPT Image 2 achieved a massive 93% win rate in blind comparisons versus 67% for Google's next best model, an unprecedented 26-point gap when leaders usually trade places by 3-4 points. What's revolutionary is that this is the first image model that plans, searches the web, and verifies output before showing results. Generation became a reasoning workload. Nate was genuinely enthusiastic when describing Takuya Matsuyama feeding the model his app summary, release notes, and blog posts about Japanese aesthetics in one prompt, getting back a complete landing page mockup with Hokusai-inspired illustrations and wabi-sabi philosophy cards matching his actual written voice. The system has 3 key architectural components: thinking mode, spending 20 seconds reasoning through composition before committing pixels, web search integration during generation for live information, and 8 coherent frames maintaining character consistency. New workflows are emerging: localized ad campaigns that previously required vendors for Tokyo, Seoul, and Mumbai can now be generated in single sessions with 0 spelling errors using period-appropriate regional typography. UI specs become rendering targets inside codecs, and live data briefs compress research, analysis, and design into one loop. But Nate emphasized serious forgery concerns. The same technology creating legitimate content can forge receipts, Slack screenshots, boarding passes, and government notices with 99% text accuracy, affecting journalism, insurance fraud teams, and legal discovery. Building on AI tool capabilities, the AI Daily Brief introduced Agent OS, their latest free training program for building personal, agentic operating systems. Nufar Gaspar was methodical and passionate about this platform-agnostic approach that works with any AI agent tool, Claude Code, Cursor, or others. His insight is that since all tools read the same text files defining who you are and what you know, the work you do building your system is completely portable. The 7 layers are identity, communication style and rules, context, your specific situation and priorities, skills, reusable instruction sets, memory, cross-session retention, connections, access to real systems, verification, what to check since wrong confident answers are the worst outcome, and automations, unsupervised tasks. Using a chief of staff agent as the running example, Nufar walked through what each layer contains. The key insight is that once you build the OS, additional agents become cheap. The first agent might take a weekend, but subsequent agents take hours since they inherit everything. He practices this himself with Chloe, his chief of staff agent, plus multiple specialists for content, technical building, and platform work, all sharing the same foundation. The compounding returns come from avoiding the need to re-explain your preferences and context to each new agent. On the content automation front, Notice Labs demonstrated a comprehensive workflow using Cursor AI, Claude, MCP servers, and knowledge graphs to systematically research, develop, optimize, and promote content. The presenter was genuinely enthusiastic about this 4-pillar system that has delivered measurable results in his Google Search Console. The pillars are context organization, so LLMs access original ideas rather than generating generic results, MCP servers for real-time data and search intent access, skills that add personal style, and knowledge graphs for analyzing content structure and finding gaps. He demonstrated how he initially wanted to create content about self-organized criticality, but worried it was too niche. Using Infranotice MCP server's SEO analysis, he discovered broader related topics like vagal tone and nervous system regulation that had actual search volume. This led to a pillar-and-spoke content strategy with main pages and supporting articles. The knowledge graph analysis is particularly powerful. After creating content, right-clicking pages in Cursor opens them as Infranotice graphs showing discourse structure, main idea clusters, and optimization advice. The graph identifies overrepresented and underrepresented topics, allowing manual steering of AI attention and generating graph-based prompts for exploring content gaps. Speaking of systematically scaling businesses, Steve from A Life Engineered shared how he built a $985,000 business in 2025 using a 3-part flywheel model, all managed through Notion. He was confident and analytical, drawing from his Amazon principal engineer background to apply business flywheel principles to his coaching venture. The 3 nodes are content, YouTube with 200K subscribers, newsletter with 40K, generating $312,000 through sponsorships, clients coaching program generating $673,000, and knowledge, accumulated institutional wisdom from hundreds of coaching sessions. Every call gets automatically transcribed by Notion's meeting note-taker, turning sessions into data points. His recently published book, Technical Behavioral Interview, an insider's guide, hit 1 in job interviewing on Amazon, demonstrating knowledge becoming content that creates new clients. The biggest breakthrough was solving the scaling bottleneck people buy Steve, not generic coaching. So how do you scale when you are the value proposition? His solution: recruit successful clients who reached principal level and augment them with custom AI agents connected to Team Slack. These agents give coaches instant access to how Steve would handle any situation, drawing from hundreds of hours of transcribed calls. This transforms the economics from growth, requiring more of Steve's time, to his team accessing all his knowledge without him being a bottleneck. Shifting to automotive markets, CarEdge revealed a staggering crisis. Nearly 228,000 unsold 2025 model year cars are sitting on dealer lots as of April 2026. The presenters displayed clear frustration and disbelief, particularly with Ford holding almost 90,000 units alone. They conducted a deep dive into the Ford Bronco Sport crisis, finding 20,000 unsold units, with some 2024 models sitting for over 900 days. Their mapping tool revealed this as a nationwide buyer's market. South Dakota shows 832 market days supply, Nebraska 745 days. Despite months on lots, dealers were only offering modest $3,000 discounts on Bronco Sports with no interest incentives. The electric vehicle segment showed similar problems with 19,000 leftover EVs, including discontinued Ford Lightnings, discounted nearly $13,000 after 252 days, but still unable to sell. Jeep had 20,352 unsold vehicles, with dealer discounts exceeding $8,440 on Grand Cherokees, still insufficient to move inventory. The father emphasized basic retail principles being ignored, quoting a Penske area VP. "If the customer hasn't said yes yet, you haven't lowered the price enough yet." He provided practical buying advice for aged vehicles: get pre-purchase inspections, take extended test drives, check for mechanical issues from non-use, but noted the advantage that factory warranties don't start until title transfer, unlike used cars where warranty time has already begun. Moving to infrastructure developments, Cloudflare's Carey argued that traditional tool calling approaches break down when exposing large APIs to AI agents. He was genuinely excited about the technical possibilities while being refreshingly honest about past mistakes, admitting, "We did all a little bit wrong" with their initial MCP approach. The problem? Cloudflare's Open API spec is 2.3 million tokens, translating to 1.1 million tokens as tools, far exceeding even the largest foundation model's context windows. Carey's solution involves letting agents write TypeScript code against typed APIs in secure sandboxed environments rather than predefining thousands of static tools. He demonstrated live how agents can generate code to list Cloudflare workers, deploy new services, and secure them behind authentication policies, all through generated TypeScript rather than predefined tools. The major barrier is running untrusted code being mega scary. But Cloudflare workers running in V8 isolates provide secure execution environments with programmable guardrails for network access. In live demo, he showed MCP clients with read-only access to entire Cloudflare infrastructure through code generation, emphasizing users get access to all 2,000+ API endpoints rather than limited subsets. Carey predicted secure code execution environments will proliferate across the web, with programmatic tool calling becoming standard and users saving generated scripts for automation. On the orchestration side, Salomon presented AgentCraft, using gaming metaphors to help engineers manage multiple AI agents simultaneously. He was confident and enthusiastic about this RTS game-inspired approach, arguing that scaling to 10, 20, or 100 agents creates orchestration bottlenecks where humans become the limiting factor. His insight was that gamers already possess these skills from managing dozens of units in real-time strategy games. AgentCraft provides visual file system mapping with directories and files represented as rooms on a map, allowing real-time tracking of which agents work on which files, complete change tracking, and heat maps for preventing agent collisions. Beyond visibility, the system enables quick reactions through muscle memory mechanisms borrowed from RTS games. The Quests feature allows agents to autonomously find missions and execute refactoring and testing tasks. Campaigns enable broad task specification while agents run in containers, decomposing tasks and presenting results with minimal oversight. The system includes automated idea generation. Agents can scan Twitter daily for cool ideas and implement them autonomously, generating multiple PRs through review bundles showing changes, reasoning, and visual evidence. Human collaboration features allow team members like product designers to work in shared workspaces with seamless handoffs between human and agent contributors. For game developers, Godot 4.7 introduces comprehensive HDR output support across major platforms. Mike from Game From Scratch was measured and informative, though notably honest about not personally liking HDR technology and planning to turn it off after recording. HDR support was rolled out incrementally. Dev 1 added Windows support, Dev 2 brought Apple devices, Dev 3 included Linux and BSD, with Android still in progress. The setup requires enabling HDR at the OS level, then in Godot's project settings under Display, Window HDR category. However, technical requirements are quite restrictive and platform-specific. Users must use Forward Plus or Mobile Renderer since Deferred doesn't support HDR. Graphics drivers requirements vary. Windows needs Direct 3D12, Linux and BSD need Vulkan, and surprisingly macOS also requires Vulkan rather than Metal. Linux users specifically must use Wayland Display Server, not X11. The system includes test applications for demonstrating HDR functionality with various display options, tone mapping demonstrations, and interactive controls for brightness versus maximum luminance. Mike referenced comprehensive documentation, including a blog post detailing platform availability and implementation. HDR only works with specific tone mapping modes, Filmic and ACES. Alan WP created a demo project available as a pull request in forked Godot demo projects under the HDR output branch. On the business transformation front, Replit CEO Amjad Masad discussed how their no-code platform enables anyone to build real software using AI agents. He was passionate and visionary, particularly excited about user success stories like the physical therapist who built sophisticated 3D body scanning software after spending hundreds of thousands on offshore development. Replit completed a 10-year journey from solving development environments to deployment, finally abstracting away coding entirely in September 2024 with vibe coding. Their latest Agent 4 adds design interactions through Canvas interface and supports multiple modalities beyond text. The strategic decision targets non-developers rather than traditional engineers who prefer complexity. User base spans personal software, enterprise tools, and entrepreneur-built products, with enterprise clients like Whoop reporting order-of-magnitude increases in feature experimentation. Agent 4 introduces parallel agents working asynchronously while users design other features, handling merge conflicts and enabling real-time collaboration. Looking ahead, Masad predicted a post-prompting world where users give high-level goals rather than detailed instructions. His vision of future companies consists primarily of builders and salespeople's sales evolving into evangelism roles, while builders become generalists who identify problems and deploy agents to solve them. Replit's internal vibe coding in residence team exemplifies this, roaming the company solving problems across departments from support queue prioritization to HR onboarding. For those wanting to escape subscription costs, Switch and Click built a free self-hosted Spotify alternative using Navidrome, Substreamer, and Listen Brains. The presenter was enthusiastic with a let's figure this out together energy, though he became more honest at the end about whether the effort was worthwhile. Frustrated with Spotify's increase from $12 to $13 monthly, he chose Navidrome for its low RAM usage and compatibility with 56 mobile and desktop apps. The setup involved Docker installation, transferring music collections, and implementing reverse proxy for remote access rather than port forwarding. iPhone compatibility reduced app options to 16, ultimately settling on Substreamer, which exceeded expectations with listening statistics, custom mixes, rating systems, and free offline downloading. For music discovery, he implemented scrobbling through Listen Brains, generating weekly playlists, though initial results included inappropriate Christmas music. The final piece involved Explo for automatically downloading Listen Brains playlists using SoulSeek, requiring extensive troubleshooting and GitHub configuration files. He concluded this creates a close Spotify alternative for music-focused users, acknowledging major limitations, including missing podcasts, audiobooks, and social features. The setup demanded significant time that many users might not consider worthwhile for $156 annual savings. In hardware news that made Random Frank P genuinely frustrated, he delivered scathing reviews of two 2026 mouse releases. Raging Frank P makes an appearance today, he warned, and lived up to that billing while reviewing the SteelSeries Aerox 3 Wireless Gen 2 and glorious Model O Classic. He was clearly fed up with what he sees as lazy, exploitative releases from companies that used to make good mice. The glorious Model O Classic he called the most e-waste tech I think I've ever seen. Using a 6-year-old BAMF 1 sensor with 19,000 dpi max and 1K HZ polling, not their newer sensors. Visually, the only changes are adding classic text and removing the bearded Odin stamp. He pointed out the absurdity of this being the 13th Model O iteration, weighing nearly 70 grams with holes, while modern mice weigh 30-40 grams without holes and reach 50,000 dpi. The SteelSeries Aerox 3 Gen 2 is actually the third iteration. Minimal upgrades include DPI increased from 18,000 to 26,000 and polling from 1K to 4K HZ max, but the persistent sleep-wake issue, taking 2-3 seconds to reconnect, remains unfixed. At $90 and $109 respectively, Frank found it very odd that both mice were originally released in 2020 within weeks of each other, and now both are being re-released in 2026 within weeks again. His conclusion: don't buy these mice, there are hundreds of better options. Wrapping up with automotive innovation, the electric Viking was clearly enthusiastic despite being unwell after food poisoning in Italy. He attended Milan Design Week, where Kia showed their new electric concept positioned as a spiritual successor to the Stinger. He called it my favorite-looking Kia ever, and probably the highlight of my trip. Designed specifically for the gamer generation, people who don't traditionally care about cars, particularly targeting gamers. The car features massive 23-inch wheels with cameras mounted in wheel housings, digital side mirrors using cameras for better aerodynamics, and extremely short front and rear overhangs for fantastic proportions. Inside, seating is configured so passengers can recline for gaming, reinforcing the target demographic. He praised how designers successfully combined swoopy curves with angular, triangular shapes, something that usually doesn't work but does here. The front light signature extends onto side camera housing, creating width illusion, and the front appears to have active aerodynamics with 3 flaps. He spent considerable time analyzing proportions, highlighting the functional EV design philosophy without unnecessary large bonnets. The car will likely appear in Gran Turismo video game, which he dubbed the Meta Turismo. Despite not getting direct confirmation from Kia, he expressed strong hope they'll put it into production. Finally, the electric Viking covered what he claims is the world's fastest charging electric car. The Lynk & Co. 10, with peak charging speeds over 1,200 kW despite his voice condition from the Italy trip, he was genuinely excited about the charging capabilities, calling them just crazy. The car takes only 9 minutes to charge from 10.97%, starting at $30,000. Performance specs include 0-100 km/h in 3 seconds, with power configurations from 300 kW rear-wheel drive to 680 kW all-wheel drive using the same motors as the Zeekr 1. Physical dimensions are substantial at 5,050 m long and 2 m wide, with premium interior features including a 23-speaker Harman Kardon system, extensive Alcantara trim, and highly adjustable seats with heating, ventilation, and massage. The standout feature is the 900-volt architecture, enabling peak charging over 1,200 kW through Geely's newest Golden Brick battery technology. Evans emphasized this makes it the fastest charging battery in any production EV, matching BYD's flash charging performance. He concluded by praising Geely Automotive Group's performance, predicting Geely and BYD will become the world's 2 largest automakers by 2030, but emphasized Geely is ahead in EV technology with 101% pure EV sales growth this year versus BYD's 2%. The Lynk & Co. 10 shares a platform with the beloved Zeekr 1, making it an absolute bargain. That's your comprehensive catch-up on the last 17 hours. From GitHub manipulation to AI breakthroughs to Apple transitions, it's been a packed news cycle. Stay informed, and I'll see you next time.